Hey folks, it's Lindsay, and here is a guide to writing your families in the media paper. So to begin, you will click and open up this document here, and it says right at the top, make a copy of this document and save it to your own drive or other word processor. So you go to File, you make a copy, and maybe you rename it My Family's in the Media paper, and you press OK. And then I recommend you just close the original document so that you have just your My Family's in the Media paper option open there. And then you get writing. Now, this document is not something that you are going to hand in to me. This is just a writing guide. This is something to help you. So some of the writing, maybe most of the writing that you do in this document, you'll be able to cut and paste later on into your essay, into an actual essay document or paper. Essay, another word for paper. So these are just guidelines. And then your final paper, it says 5 to 7. Actually, it should probably be 4 to 6. And I'll make that change in the original document. 12-point font. And in the past, when I've done this assignment with this guided writing exercise, folks have done wonderfully and found it really helpful. If this isn't meeting your learning needs, you're still struggling with the writing, feel free to contact me and we can work out something. All right, so here is a suggestion. Start with a catchy question or anecdote. Briefly share what media you looked into. Share the family you have chosen, where to find this media, the title, and why. And then provide a roadmap of the paper. A roadmap is usually something that tells the reader what the paper is going to do, what you plan to do in that paper. And hot tip, I usually write my roadmap when I'm finished writing the entire paper, so that my roadmap tells the story of what the paper is going to be about. And at this point right now, I don't know what it's going to be about. I'm going to erase you right here because that's where I'm going to write. And I'm talking about the mini-series Made, which we briefly talked about in class. So if I'm going to start with a catchy question or anecdote, I might start with, I've never been in a position to be a maid. I want to start off with that. That's not me. I've never been in that position before. But Alex has. And then I might talk about which media I looked into. For my media project, or my family's in the media project. Spelling mistake. Was in the media project. I watched a Netflix miniseries Made. And that's from 2021. And I'm going to be referencing that in my bibliography. So right there, in one sentence, I've really quickly just said where to find it. I found it at Netflix. It's very obvious in that sentence. And then I'm going to get into why I've chosen that media, and who the family is, that sort of thing. It's going to be happening later in the section. So I was initially interested in this miniseries because it is filmed where I live. But I quickly learned that it was a unique depiction of what family can be. Trauma, messy, alive, and love. And then I'm going to leave space for my roadmap at the end. I definitely want to make sure I include that, so I put it in all caps. And then when I'm writing my actual paper, so if I started a new document right now and I titled that my actual paper, then I could even just go, and when I'm feeling like this is written and I'm feeling good about what I've got, then I can go and just cut and paste it. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Undo. I can cut and paste it into my actual paper. And I want to make sure that I've double spaced it. That's really important. I want to make sure it's 12-point font. That's really important because those are some of the stipulations that are there. And I want to make sure that I've got some kind of title. So, and I'm going to make sure it's a creative title, not just my paper. And who it's by me. I'm gonna put my actual name. And then I'll start writing my paper. And so there I've got my first paragraph done already, except for my roadmap. That's pretty good. All right, so then if I go back to this families in the media guided writing, and I get into the first section, I've got some more questions to follow here. What is the media resource? Well, it's a mini series. Who is the family? Get specific. So I'm going to make sure that I write about how in this media source in MAID, which is widely available on Netflix, we follow the story of Alex and her daughter, Maddie, as they learn to be a family on the run. And then I'm going to maybe get specific about who Alex is. So Alex is, and I get specific. I maybe talk about Maddie. I'm going to talk about her ex-partner. I'm going to talk about her mother. And then I might talk about other maybe non-traditional elements of family that came up in there. I might talk about, friends cropping out, or the lack of friends in this case, or neighbors, other community members. Can't spell today, and so on. And then I might get into what the values are that they've chosen, with that the family that I've chosen. And there are lots of great quotations from this film that I'd probably tap into. So I'd make sure that I talk about how, Alex is all about her daughter. In the second episode, when speaking with a social worker, Alex says, and then I'll find the quotation. Oops. I'll write that out. She says something about how she lives for her daughter. I can't remember the exact quotation right now. And then I will make sure I cite that as, and so on. And then when I'm done all this and I'm feeling pretty good about it, I can again cut and paste that into this document and start editing that as I go. There's still some more sections here that I would want to fill out as well. So social location of the family members is really key. And then when you get to the second section, this pulls on the activity that I've asked you to do, comparing this family with the story we all know of the family, going through your details of what you understand the story we all know the family to be, and how this media aligns or subverts that story. So in this case, this show MAID really subverts that story. And it demonstrates how Alex is constantly in a battle to assert herself and to assert the validity of her family for her daughter and for her own well-being, despite the fact that the system seems to only think of families in one certain way. So yeah, that would be talking about how that SWAC is affecting this chosen family that I've got. And then I'm going to move on after I'm done all of that. And that's probably going to take up at least 2 pages, I would say. Usually your introduction is pretty brief, a small paragraph. Your first section will probably be a paragraph or a paragraph and a half. And then the second section might be a couple paragraphs as well. So I can see that taking up almost 2 pages. And then I'm going to get into these possible questions to consider. So below are some questions to consider in guided writing, and you can design your own questions as well. You don't have to use these questions. So I might be really interested in poverty because of this MAID selection. And maybe I might even go back and look at the wonderful community resources project done by a couple of students in our class and pull on some of that information. And then I can also, then bring in maybe just one of these questions. I don't need to bring in many of these questions. So my third section, I'm going to select a question I want to explore. So maybe I want to talk about my own family and then this family, because I think they're really different. My own family didn't experience poverty in any way and had some pretty dangerous opinions about poverty that I grew up with and that I'm still unpacking. So I think I want to talk about that. And so I would write about that here. And then maybe I want to learn more about, poverty in the media. And so that will be my next question. And then fifth section, I'm probably going to run out of space because I'm pretty long-winded. So I probably personally wouldn't even do a fifth section. But if you're more of a short-winded person, you don't have a lot to write, then, leave this section. Maybe you might want to put another question in there. And then you get your concluding section. So here you'll be talking about the final elements that you want to explore and just sort of going over what your paper was about. And then not forgetting at the end to go back and fill in that roadmap. First, I'm going to talk about who Alex really is and the members of her family. Then I'm going to get into the story we all know surrounding family and how that affects Alex and Maddie. And then I'm going to look at poverty in the family and how the story we all know around poverty affects this family. And then I'm going to, what else did I talk about? Then I'm going to talk about also my own family and my own background and how that colors my interpretation of what's happening in this family and how I'm unpacking that now. And then I will conclude. So I might, that roadmap is going to take up a little bit more space, probably 3 or 4 more sentences. And so that will make a really nice, well-rounded introduction that will lead very beautifully into all of my paragraphs that I'm constructing here. And at the end, I go through these final questions to help me. And this is really important. Your concluding section might be a couple paragraphs. Don't skimp on your concluding section. Don't do a 5th section if you've not got enough space left. The concluding section is key. I cannot state this enough. So this is really where you're going to tie all your learning together and make sure that you put it across really clearly how this project might support your growth as an ELC professional and what further questions you might be left with at the end. So that is how to use this document. And just remember to make a copy of the document and save it under a different name and do not hand in this form. You don't want to do that. Instead, you want to create a separate document that your actual paper will be in. And I encourage you to use the Writing Center as well. And I'll put a link up to the Writing Center for you to help you out. All right, please let me know if you need any help. And I'm sure you're going to have a wonderful paper to hand in at the end, especially if you choose something that you're really passionate about when you watch.